Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. A massive win for Texas A&M and Mike Elko Saturday night against LSU. I would argue that the biggest storyline coming out of that football game is Texas A&M. I think it's become very clear has found their starting quarterback in Marcel Reed, and it's for a couple of different reasons. And for the Texas A&M fans who've been rocking with the boys for the last couple of weeks and months, we talked extensively about this in the beginning of October. A lot of Texas A&M fans agreed in the comment section that when you saw Marcel Reed come in and run this Texas A&M offense, he allowed this Texas A&M offense to lean into its strengths, which is running the football. And I think if you were to ask Mike Elko and you sit him down and say, Coach Elko, how would you envision this Texas A&M team winning every single week on Saturdays? I think he'd say run the football and play good defense. What quarterback allows you to do that most effectively? I think it's become very clear that Marcel Reed is that guy. I mean, I think Texas A&M found their identity in terms of how they want to win at the highest level of the SEC Saturday night against LSU. And that's running the football, playing good defense. That's what we saw. I mean, Texas A&M's made it very clear they run the football 63% of their offensive snaps. Whether Conner Weigman's in or whether Marcel Reed's in, this is a Texas A&M team that wants to run the football. What quarterback allows you to run the football more effectively? I think it's become very clear that it's Marcel Reed. Want to get into a little bit of the film and talk about what Marcel Reed does that allows Texas A&M to run the football more effectively. And it's not only what he can do with his legs, but it's also what he can do in terms of the threat of him keeping it on those read options that really does freeze a lot of those front seven defenders. I thought you saw very clear examples of it Saturday night in terms of what Marcel Reed can bring to this Texas A&M rushing attack. Fired up to get into this one. Before we do it, as always, and I think most importantly, let it fly in the comment section. We had this conversation a month ago, and the beauty of college football is some of y'all disagreed. Some of y'all kind of thought Conner Weigman should still be the guy. There was a lot of merit to those arguments, and quite frankly, we even said, hey, Conner Weigman might be the guy after what he did against Missouri a couple of weeks ago. So let it fly in the comment section. Would love to hear from the Texas A&M fans. Who do you want to see trotting out, running this offense against South Carolina Saturday night? If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Quick shout out to the Texas A&M fans, whether we're talking this team in 2024, whether we're talking about what Texas A&M is doing on the recruiting trail, the amount of support y'all continue to show to the fellas, it's been amazing. And quite frankly, it's been a blast talking to this team. So we can't thank you guys enough. Without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start with just the broad comparisons that we see between Marcel Reed and Conner Weigman. And let's just start analyzing how these two quarterbacks ran the offense on Saturday night against LSU. Same defense. Conner Weigman plays a half and 2.5 quarters of that football game. Texas A&M scored 7 points. Marcel Reed comes into the game. Here are the drives for Marcel Reed. 1 play, 8 yards, touchdown. 7 plays, 60 yards, touchdown. 5 plays, 26 yards, touchdown. 4 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. 6 plays, 29 yards, field goal. Marcel Reed led a scoring drive on every single drive that he had in that second half of that football game. So you just kind of compare the results of Conner Weigman and Marcel Reed and say, what quarterback ran the offense more effectively against LSU Saturday night? It's very clear that it's Marcel Reed. Now, the counter argument to that is LSU spent their whole week prepping against this Conner Weigman offense. And when Marcel Reed came into the game, it was very clear that LSU didn't spend much time thinking about or repping how they were going to defend Marcel Reed. That being said, and you could kind of argue that what happens when defenses spend 7 days prepping for a Marcel Reed-led offense, it might not be as effective. But at the end of the day, when you see that big of a discrepancy in terms of how the quarterback runs the offense, it's hard to not go with the quarterback that led a scoring drive and mostly touchdown drives on every single drive that you saw him run Saturday night. And I think secondly, even looking at Conner Weigman and Marcel Reed as passers, there's not all that big of a difference. I mean, Conner Weigman, a 56% completion percentage, 7.2 yards per pass, 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions on the year. Marcel Reed, 50 completion percentage. So the completion percentage is a little bit down, but you're averaging more yards per pass at 8.1, 6 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. The biggest concern you might have with going with Marcel Reed is redshirt freshman, not a ton of experience. Will he make some mistakes with the football? We haven't seen Marcel Reed do that. And I think one of those overall talking points that you could probably go to is Marcel. And we talked about this Saturday night, and I'm not exactly sure how to describe it, but I'm going to do my best. And that's the it factor. When you watch Conner Weigman take the field and you watch him run this offense, there are times where you kind of just feel like the moment's a little too big for Conner Weigman. You saw that against Notre Dame. You saw that against LSU again. When you watch Marcel Reed, although you can tell at times he's a redshirt freshman, there's one thing you can't say about this kid. You can't say the moment's too big. When Marcel Reed takes the field, and he took the field in zero question about it, the biggest environment, the biggest moment that he's ever played in as a college football player in the second half of that LSU game, down in that football game, it never seemed like Marcel Reed felt like the moment was too big. This kid has that it factor about him that's hard to quantify, hard to describe, but you can kind of see, you kind of know it when you see it. I think we all saw that from Marcel Reed Saturday night. It's a really important aspect about being a quarterback. Now, I want to get into a little bit of the film, talk about what Marcel Reed brings, and I want to start with the first snap of this football game with Conner Weigman leading the offense. Marcel Reed's ability to impact Texas A&M's offense, excuse me, does not only include what he can do when he has the football in his hands. When you take a look at this first rep right here, there's not a single front seven defender. One, LSU's clearly heavy box in Texas A&M saying, hey, Conner Weigman, if you can beat us down the field, do it. We're going to try to take away this run game. No doubt that was the game plan for LSU heading into this matchup. There's not a single front seven defender. You freeze this at the mesh point. Backside nickel, not concerned. Backside edge rusher, crashing down. There's just not a lot of space to run the football with these backs because these front seven defenders have very little respect or fear for what Conner Weigman can do keeping the football. And you roll out this play, what, you get 1 or 2 yards on first down, 1 yard on first down. But again, you take a look at these front seven defenders, not a single one. Backside edge rusher, crashing down. Backside nickel defender, crashing down. Nobody's really respecting or expecting Conner Weigman to keep the football. Now, Conner Weigman comes into the football game, first snap Marcel Reed comes into the football game early third quarter. And it's very clear that if you're not going to respect Marcel Reed and what he can do keeping the football, you're going to pay the price for it. There are going to be consequences. You roll this film right here, Savion Jones, backside edge rusher. Savion Jones crashes down at this mesh point. Marcel Reed sees it, easy read for him, pulls it. What Marcel Reed does not get enough credit for is he's not only a really good athlete, like we see some really, I would argue Haynes King was kind of like this. Haynes King was a really good athlete, really, really fast, but I don't know if he was the best, ball carrier, so to speak, in terms of the intangibles and the understanding of how to set up defenders, read what's going on down the field. Marcel Reed is. He stretches it out, slams it up in there. Marcel Reed's feel for how to run the football is very, very impressive. Obviously makes LSU pay. And again, you kind of see it even more here. If you're going to be Savion Jones and you're not going to respect what Marcel Reed can do keeping that football, you're going to pay for it. And Marcel Reed's able to do that. Now you take a look at the next couple of plays. I think this is probably the best example of what Marcel Reed can bring when he doesn't have the football in his hands. Right? You run this play here. Deshaun Womack, backside edge rusher. He's respecting. We just saw Marcel Reed pull it and burn us for an 8-yard touchdown. We got to respect what Marcel Reed can do. Deshaun Womack, not crashing and running the line of scrimmage. Backside defender, Whit Weeks, probably the best player on this LSU defense. What does he also do? Who's he looking at? Who's he reading? He's also looking at Marcel Reed. When you have the ability to freeze multiple defenders in the front seven, wait, we're just going to hand this football off to Le'Veon Moss. Deshaun Womack can't make a play because he has to respect Marcel Reed. Whit Weeks is very concerned about what Marcel Reed can do if he keeps the football. You give it to Le'Veon Moss. He slams it up in there, 15-yard chunk play. Like the ability for Marcel Reed to keep the football is very effective in freezing these front seven defenders. You see it again on this play as well. And I think you continue to want to look at, what these front seven defenders are. In this case, you're getting both front seven or both edge rushers concerned about what Marcel Reed's doing. Both linebackers are looking at Marcel Reed. You're freezing these linebackers at the second level. Hey, we're going to give it to Amari Daniels on the edge. This edge defender was too busy reading Marcel Reed. Linebackers were sucked in with Marcel Reed. Amari Daniels showing good burst, getting it up there for 10 yards down to the 3. Even when Marcel Reed's not keeping the football, he allows this Texas A&M team to run the football more effectively. Then you look at him as a passer, and one of the more frustrating aspects about Marcel Reed is people don't think he can throw the football. He's got some arm talent. And with this play, people would describe it as, well, he just hit a Noah Thomas who was wide open. That's certainly not the case. I mean, one, you're going to have deep shots because these safeties are going to be flat-footed, looking for the run game. Noah Thomas runs right by his little cover two look, split into two high safeties. You don't throw this football any better. I mean, that ball doesn't get better from what Marcel Reed just threw. You're going to have the ability to be more explosive down the field. I think that's how Texas A&M wants this offense to look, where, hey, we're going to run the football on 63% of our plays. That number is certainly not going to change with Marcel Reed at quarterback. In fact, it might go even a little bit higher. Like, we know when Marcel Reed's in the game, it's no secret that Texas A&M is going to run the football. But when that's the case, you are going to have the ability to be explosive down the field. That's actually what Kansas State was very good at last year, where they would run the football, but they were also top 20 in yards per pass. They didn't throw the football all that often with Coach Colin Klein at Kansas State, but when they threw it, they were able to find those explosive plays. Marcel Reed seems to be the quarterback that Colin Klein's more comfortable calling plays with, because that's the quarterback that Colin Klein is used to coaching and working with. I think it's become very clear that, Marcel Reed's the guy. Now, I think there are two kind of side conversations you got to have. One, look, is Marcel Reed going to be as effective against a South Carolina team that Mike Elko came out and said, hey, we're not sure who's going to be our starting quarterback. I think we all know who's going to start, and I think Shane Beamer certainly knows who's going to start. Is Marcel Reed going to be as effective when a team preps for him for 7 days? That's certainly a conversation that I understand. But even in that South Carolina game, like, what's the biggest storyline for Texas A&M moving the football? Controlling those edge rushers. How do you control edge rushers? Having a quarterback that can keep it on those read options. And so, one, I think Marcel Reed's a better fit against South Carolina, but more importantly, there's that argument that Marcel Reed just might get better as a quarterback as he gets more experience, right? You play South Carolina, which I do think is a good matchup for Marcel Reed at quarterback. New Mexico State, confidence builder game. You get an Auburn team that Texas A&M should beat with either quarterback. So you get 3 games that I think Marcel Reed can get his feet wet a little bit more, gain a little bit more confidence until you host Texas at the end of the year. You get a bye week in that span as well. I think there's that argument that Marcel Reed also just might become a better quarterback as he's quarterback one longer in this Texas A&M offense. But at the end of the day, Texas A&M wants to run the football, play good defense. That's what makes this team the most dangerous. What quarterback gives you that ability? I think it's very clear that it's Marcel Reed running this Texas A&M offense. We'll sign out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.